Welcome back. Justin Trudeau is no longer going to be Canada's Prime Minister now that Mark Carney has secured a landslide victory in a Liberal Party leadership vote. Now, Carney is the former chief of the Bank of Canada. He was a Goldman Sachs executive and helped Canada through the 2008 financial crisis. Mike Carney won in a landslide, winning 85.9% of the vote. He is a highly educated economist with Wall Street experience who has long been interested in entering politics and becoming Prime Minister, but he lacks critical, political, realpolitik experience. He has been an advisor to the Trudeau government in the past and is a very vocal critic of US President Donald Trump. The other top Liberal leadership candidate was former Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, who received just 8% of the vote. Now, Mike Carney is expected to trigger an election shortly. Either he will call for one, or the opposition parties in Parliament could force one with a no-confidence vote later this month. And more importantly, Carney said that he will rebuild relations with India if voted to power.
In first place,
Au premier rang,
the next Prime Minister
le
of
prochain
Canada,
Premier
Mark
ministre du Canada, M. Mark Carney, avec
31,674 votes, resulting in 29,457 allocated points, representing 85.9% of the vote.
des voix totales.
Mark Carney!
We have made this the greatest country in the world.
Le Canada est l'un des plus
And now-
beaux pays du monde. L'un des plus grands. Et maintenant,
And now our neighbors want to take us.
nos voisins veulent nous annexer.
No way. No way.
There's
Le
someone who's
contraire,
trying to
qui
weaken
essaie
our
d'affaiblir
economy.
notre économie.
Yeah. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, as we
Donald
know,
Trump,
has
comme
put,
nous le savons,
as the Prime Minister just said,
et le Premier ministre l'a
unjustified
souligné, a mis de
tariffs
l'avant
on
des
what we
tarifs
build, on
injustifiés
what we
sur tout ce que
sell,
nous
on
construisons,
how we
vendons
make a
et
living.
comment nous gagnons nos vies.
He's attacking
Il s'est attaqué
Canadian
aux
families,
travailleurs,
workers
aux
and
familles et aux
businesses,
entreprises
and we
canadiennes.
cannot let him
Et on ne peut
succeed.
pas le laisser faire.
And we won't. We won't.
Let's go across to my guests who are joining me at this point to make sense of this. Suresh Kumar Goel is a former ambassador, and Vivek Mishra is a fellow from ORF at this point. Vivek Mishra, let me begin with you first. First and foremost, Mark Carney, is this a name that was expected, or did it come from out of the blue, given the fact that while he is an immensely qualified economist and a former banker, he doesn't really have a lot of real-world political experience?
So I would say the reason has to be a mix of both. I mean, it was partly expected, partly not, primarily because of the economic brawl that Canada today finds itself in with the United States. Its most, strongest partner in terms of economy. So I think, and the other thing is that given the state of the Liberal Party's politics and the free fall in the support indices of the party, he was, Mark Carney would have been a safe choice. And I think that's why you see that the party has sort of rallied behind him. And in turn, what has happened is that the support, the polls for the party have actually increased, given just in a few weeks. So I think he's a safe choice, but it'll remain to be seen if he can rally around the party together to return some of the policies that Trudeau government has taken, particularly vis-a-vis India.
Well, that's fair enough. And I think even though his future remains a bit indefinite, given the fact that the Liberal Party perhaps is looking in for a snap polls itself and faces a lot of anti-incumbency, at least under Trudeau going into the elections. Suresh Kumar Goel, one thing the incumbent Canadian Prime Minister seems to have got it right is to have cashed in on the anti-Trump sentiment in Canada at this point, quite intriguingly referring him to Lord Voldemort from the Harry Potter series at this point. Is this something which will help Mark Carney in terms of the populist, or at least his popularity with Canadians at the present?
I think somewhere I was reading a remark in terms of the election of Mike Carney as the new Prime Minister, leader of the Liberal Party, that in Canada, where there was going to be a kind of a ballot for new political party or a new candidate political ideology. It's not that anymore. It's really just basically the more or less people are united in their criticism of what Trump has done by calling Trudeau as a governor, by trying to get Canada as the 51st state of the United States. So I do believe that there is a huge kind of unhappiness. There is a huge resistance and opposition to what Trump looks at Canada for about. And my sense is that Mike Carney would be able to really rally people around that sentiment and increase the political support for him when the elections take place. So in that sense, yes, these are the kind of things which will support him.
Okay. But Ambassador Goel, now let's talk about the other important statement that has been made by Mark Carney. He has indicated that his priority will also be to try and come up with the thaw in Indo-Canadian relations. Now, that is something that really nosedived India's relations with the Liberal Party during Justin Trudeau's regime, and especially with concerns coming up over Trudeau's hobnobbing with, or at least allowing Khalistani sentiments to fester under his very nose. Do you see this as a welcome step, or as someone who has been an ambassador, would you feel that the Indian High Commission, or at least India, would look to view this with a sense of caution and seeing whether he actually lives up to his words before reciprocating?
My sense that even if he wants to do it, a lot really depends upon whether he will be able to play on the politics within Canada itself to be able to do what he has announced. Now, Trudeau depended quite considerably on the support from the Khalistani party for his own survival as a prime minister, for the survival of liberals in the government. Whether the situation changes at the next elections or not is yet to be seen. But if, in a sense, Mike Carney continues to depend upon Khalistani elements, Khalistani party, for his own survival as a prime minister, the situation may not remain that simple at all. So we need to wait and see. Number two, I had said even at that time that the political forces that were aligned at that time seemed to suggest that it was not just Canada, which was actually in the game against India, but there were other forces, political forces, which were actually playing up to keep that as a pressure on India for several things. Now that situation had changed, and whether the same Five Eye cooperation will continue to play upon the Canadian Prime Minister, I don't know as yet. So there are many complexities which will come into play, and we will need to wait and see whether Mike Carney is able to actually redeem what he has said.
Okay. Vivek Mishra, I'll come to you for the final word. If you could do some crystal ball gazing and look at the challenges that await Canada's next Prime Minister, he no longer has support of Jagmeet Singh's party, given the fact that Jagmeet Singh has said that they will fight elections as a third front. The Conservative Party headed by Pierre Poilievre has also been tasting blood for a while now at this point. He has a rocky road ahead at this point, but perhaps what could go in his favor is ripping up populist sentiments by continuing to criticize Donald Trump and ripping up the sentiment of Canadian pride.
That's exactly right. I mean, the external threat of the United States as an external threat to Canada has been trumped up inside Canada, where they have booed at the national anthem, they have removed liquor shops from various stores across Canada and restaurants. So I think that it has certainly helped the Liberal Party to sort of come over the image problem that Trudeau had. But I think the key will be to sustain it politically as it was laid out by Ambassador, that the key will be to internally sort of sustain that momentum through October when the elections are due, or earlier if there are snap elections. So I think that until then, the fact that the Liberal Party has closed the poll gaps with the Conservatives is telling of the fact that the Canadians are more united in many ways. And given that what has happened between the United States and Canada, particularly Trump's threats to revise the water treaty with Canada, to revise the border treaty, I think those are more palpable threats that the Canadians today feel, uniting them in an unprecedented way.
And from India's perspective, Vivek, what do you make of this, given the fact that he has at least gotten one thing right in terms of optics, saying that he wants to restore a thaw in ties with India, understanding at this point that what India perhaps has been saying about the rise of Khalistani terror has indeed come back to bit Canada, the very hand that has fed it?
Clearly, there had to be a relook at Canada's approach to India, and I think this is a welcome step that he has highlighted. There are 2 or 3 reasons why he's done that. One is, of course, that he's an economist who has been baked in the COVID and the recession crises of both UK and Canada. So he has better understanding of the economic thing. And before his current job, I think he was also an asset manager for a very large company, which is invested in India for about $30 billion in the Indian market. So I think he understands the relevance and importance of India, not just as a political relationship, but I think as an economic actor in this world, much better than others do.
All right. Thanks a lot, Vivek Mishra and Ambassador Goel, for joining us with your views and perspectives here. It remains to be seen what this new chapter in Canadian politics brings for the country, for the region, and for the rest of the world, including India. But for now, let's